Now we're at entry 15, which covers March 16th through 20th, 1964. Some of this is about an upcoming trip you have to Dallas. Tell us a little bit about this memo.
Yeah, this entry covers an entire week, and the last 2 days of the week, Thursday and Friday, I went to Dallas. We finally had reached the point where the Ruby trial was completed, and we're embarking on a very large scale of depositions in Dallas, taken by 4 or 5 members of the commission staff for different kinds of people, depending upon their area of interest. And I was going down sort of to represent the Rankin and deal with the U.S. Attorney Barefoot Sanders, whom I mentioned earlier, and also to meet some of the either the mayor, deputy mayor, and the head of the police department to alert them to the fact that we've entered the city and we're going to conduct these depositions, and we're looking for cooperation from the U.S. Attorney's Office. And Barefoot Sanders, of course, was very friendly. He had that experience with Jack. He'd been in contact with Jack Miller by telephone about this, and he was very welcoming to me. And he and I got along famously. And whenever I needed something important, like a new secretary or additional reporter, he was very quick to try to respond and help us perform as effectively and efficiently as we could during our stay in Dallas. And the same was true at the mayoral level. I forget whether I saw the mayor or the deputy mayor, but they understood why we're there. And the newspapers picked it up. That young reporter, who turned out to be a famous reporter, wrote about the appearance on the scene of a group of Warren Commission lawyers, and commented on our objectives, and that we were there to get the story, and we weren't there to demean the city of Dallas in any respect, because it was the scene of that horrific event. So most of the subject matter for the earlier week pertained to making the arrangements, identifying who's going, for what purposes, all that had sort of been approved. And meanwhile, the Monday of that week was the day on which the autopsy doctors testified before the commission. And we can be talking about that further. And that about covers the entry, I think.
Yeah, you do mention there's a quote that you call these extremely tedious and aggravating days. So it's clear you were under a lot of pressure doing all this work at this time.
I complain too much, but the fact is that keeping all the balls in the air, maintaining the offices at home, and making sure everyone who's going out, is on their own schedule, is signed up to the same procedures, was perhaps aggravating, but in a way it was a sign of really forward and important progress. I think they were going to accomplish somewhere more than 60 or 70 depositions within a week or so. And that was really a major strike for independent investigation, because the witnesses chosen were usually quite significant ones. So I was glad to be a part of that, and asked actually, after I returned home, asked that someone, I forget who it was, that I asked to submit sort of a daily bulletin at the end of the day, so that we in Washington could remain informed of what they in Dallas and elsewhere were doing in terms of witnesses that had been deposed, or any problems that had arisen that we should pay attention to.
When you were in Dallas, you came to this building, the Texas School Book Depository.
I'm sure I did.
I think you mentioned it in the book. I'm just curious, being here at the site, obviously this is something you've been thinking about full time, the death of President Kennedy. To actually be here at the site, did that hold any significance for you?
Well, of course it was significant. I don't think I showed any particular sentiment at the time, but I'm probably not prone to doing that as a rule. But no, it was significant to come and see the location and look out of the window, like everyone tended to do in the last 54 years. But it was important in terms of getting to the grassroots sort of the event. And it's one thing to talk to experts up in Washington. It's another thing to talk to people on the ground here. So it was a meaningful couple of days, and I returned and reported to Rankin.